All right, well, welcome and thank you so much for taking the time to join us today for the Architecture by the Book volunteer training session. I'm Kim Anderson with the California Architectural Foundation, also known as CAF, and I'm joined by Laura Noss, AIA, who was the brainchild behind this program. Excuse me. Polly Osborne, FAIA, and Jeannie Berticellini, AIA, who are enthusiastic leaders in the program. Over the next hour, we're going to go through everything you need to know about Architecture by the Book. And our goal is by the end of this session that you'll be ready and inspired to lead a lesson in your community. We have a lot to cover, so I'm going to ask Laura to kick us off.
Sure. Thank you, everybody, for being here. We're excited that you're interested in bringing architecture to young minds. When we started this program at the AIA Central Valley, it was really about understanding that we needed to reach below the level of our interns or even those high school students. We needed to bring that kind of awareness to students when they were at a young age for spatial thinking, creative problem solving, really an awareness of the built environment. The Google Future of Education report emphasizes that exposure to our rapidly changing world of work should start early and earlier than maybe we do in the United States. This allows students to shape their career pathways and aspirations over time, finding the best match for their interests and learning styles. And sometimes waiting till junior high or high school, it's too late. It misses our youngest learners and gets them sort of engaged in this project-based or hands-on learning. We believe when children understand what architects do, that we're going to create more of us, create our replacements. So when we look at architecture in the K-12 system, there's a lot of gaps, right? We have few formal programs, those that are lucky to have it at their high schools. It's not typically ubiquitous. Unlike subjects like art and music, it doesn't usually form as a dedicated area. CTE pathways exist, and that's where we're seeing a lot of kids get their interests, but often it's not till high school, and the pathway is very specific. So we look at those K-12 schools as an opportunity and get kids interested into choosing those pathways when they get to high school. So this program really reaches down below high school. I'm sure there's a way we could expand it into a high school curriculum, but really in that early K-5, connecting students directly with practicing professionals and a little insight into what we do.
Thank you, Laura. I appreciate that. So what is Architecture by the Book? Well, in a nutshell, it consists of three essential elements that work together to create an engaging educational experience. There's actually four, and you're the fourth, but there's a book and a lesson card, and they typically center around a children's book with an architectural theme. The accompanied lesson card provides structure and guidance for you as the volunteer. The presentation is a downloadable PDF presentation that you can bring with you or share with the teacher and present. And then there's a hands-on activity. So following the presentation, students participate in this hands-on building activity. The key part is you. As a volunteer architect, you'll share your expertise, your passion, and your real-world experience with the students. And your presence makes architecture tangible and relatable for young learners. The power of this program lies in the combination of all these elements. The book and presentation spark interest, the activity provides hands-on learning, applying concepts, and your presence brings it all to life in the context of a real profession. Let's quickly look at all of the components in detail. The book, Architecture by the Book lesson centers, I mentioned, around a children's book. The World is Not a Rectangle is a book featuring Zaha Hadid. The book is often a larger part of the lesson when you have younger audiences. So for older audiences, we recommend you purchase the book and leave it behind. The lesson card serves as a roadmap for the session. It's designed to be a starting point to guide you, but know that you can branch off as needed depending on the specific needs of the teacher or the community group. And then the presentation. For most lessons, the presentation is the crucial part of the program. This is your opportunity for introductory information and to share the featured architect. And it's also a chance for you to share your own experiences and expertise. Again, you can use the presentation as appropriate for the group. Younger students respond well to pictures and simple diagrams. And older students may benefit from you bringing in some physical models or some material samples. And these are just some examples of what's in a typical presentation. You know, what inspires AHA, examples of her work. Your enthusiasm is contagious. When you show genuine passion for architecture, the students will pick up on that energy. And don't be afraid to share what excites you about being an architect. We recommend you keep the presentation to about 10 to 15 minutes, leaving plenty of time for Q&A and of course that hands-on activity. So the hands-on activity is where the abstract concepts become concrete experiences. Again, feel free to be creative here. Come up with an architecture-related project that reinforces the architect's design approach. For example, Polly, who's going to be one of our speakers, did an activity on Julia Morgan, and she brought blocks to show some structural pieces, but then she also, the activity was designing a clock tower, like Julia Morgan's design at Mills College.
Bell tower.
The bell tower, excuse me. Thank you. So activities are designed to be engaging and fun, doable within the time constraints, appropriate for the age group, and focusing on the core architectural concepts. As the architect volunteer, you're going to guide students through the activity, offering insights and encouragement. This is a highlight the lesson to students, the moment when they get to be architects themselves. Remember to circulate among the students during the activity, asking questions and highlighting good ideas that you observe. And this individual attention means a lot to them and helps reinforce what they're learning. And of course, rely on the teacher or the community leader to help manage the students. You're not there to teach. You're not there to manage. You're there to teach. And so they've been incredible help to us. Laura's going to talk a little bit about bringing the fun.
Yeah, I think it's really important to understand that when you're working with kids, it doesn't have to be expensive. It doesn't have to be a big lift. We recommend saving recycled materials. We recommend talking to the teacher in advance. Teachers have so much stuff that they already have. Many of them already save recyclables for art projects, and they can come from anywhere. Dollar Tree, your recycle bin. The kids love samples that we have around the office that we know are just going to go to a landfill. So the key is really embracing the creativity of these simple materials, talking to them about inspiration and what that, giving them some guidance, sharing what architects do along the way. They're really very interested as you get going into the project. So when we talk about the architecture program, you can see Ida Claire, we did a session together. We went in and we did talk about what architects do to start things. And we asked the kids, right? What do they do? What do you think an architect does? And a lot of them thought we build buildings. It was close, right? And we explained, we had a great experience using the Lego analogy, right? You have the instructions in a Lego kit. We're the ones who put together the instructions for somebody else that can build it. So sharing your personal journey, depending on the age group, what a typical day looks like, the kind of projects that architects can work on, from houses to schools. I happen to do schools, so that's a really easy thing for the kids to understand, but also connecting things to everyday activities. The Zaha Hadid example was so great for the kids because we could show the relationship between, say, a seashell and her stadium project. And so, you know, they wanted to be a frog or a butterfly, and their buildings reflected all of those big ideas.
Thanks, Lauren. I want to just underscore that for many of these students, you may be the first architect they've ever met. And so, you know, they're really excited about it. And it's actually been really fun in the ones that I've participated in. So where do you find our lessons? So CAF currently has 8 complete lessons available, and there's 7 under development. So we're working on getting those lessons all completed, and then they can continue to grow. So if this is something you're interested in after you hear from Polly and Jeannie and Laura about what they've done, please reach out to CAF and let us know. We'd be happy to show you the templates we have. It's not as much of a lift, hopefully, as you might think. And then we currently have 54 volunteers in the program, and we're always looking for more. If you're on the call today and you have not officially signed up, the link is here, and I'll share these links after our session today in an email so you can sign up. It's a great way for us to contact you and let you know about opportunities. So now, next up, we're really excited to have our speakers talk about how they have led lessons. The simple model for architecture by the book is one lesson at one school at a time, and that's wonderful and great. But however, our speakers today are going to inspire you to think about applying architecture by the book to existing programs. This is a great way to maximize impact, and you're not reinventing the wheel. You're just jumping on the wheel. So first, Polly. Polly's going to talk an after-school program that she interacted with.
Great. May I share my screen?
Sure.
Okay, let's see if I can do that.
There you go, Polly.
Okay, great. Hang on a sec. All sorts of other things came up. Okay, I thought it might be helpful to just show a little bit of the presentation part of this. So what I wanted to say, first of all, is that I went for really low-hanging fruit in that I went for an after-school art program. And so it was made in the shade. I mean, easy as can be to walk in and the kids are ready. They're there to do art, and architecture is just a tiny step away. So that was easy. I chose Frank Lloyd Wright. The book is fantastic. It's called How to Think Like Frank Lloyd Wright, and it's got lesson plans right in it. So it was just a matter of trying to cull it out to choose what I wanted to choose in it. What I did, I also was very fortunate to have several friends who wrote books on Frank Lloyd Wright, which was really great because one of the most challenging things about developing a lesson is getting the rights to photographs. So one hint is go to Flickr. There's lots of people there who took photographs of great places, and they might have all your photos, and they're thrilled to share them because now they're famous, you know. So I started out doing something a little personal, you know, sharing my own story and why I love Frank Lloyd Wright and the building that I knew of his in my hometown, and then talking a little bit about what's the difference between building a building and making architecture. And, you know, talking about it's a room, it's got four walls, and then show something, bang, you know, this is how he would do it. And then talking about why it matters, and also just giving some sense about the story of the architect, where he came from, what he did. You know, his first building was when he was 22, and his last building was when he was 92. I mean, you know, the sense of the person, the sense of what he cares about. In this case, he spelled nature with a capital N. And then I showed some examples, which I'll just pop through. But then for the exercise, in this case, I didn't have all the cardboard and glue guns and everything, because I just walked in there and it was just me. So I decided to do a drawing exercise. And Frank Lloyd Wright loved nature and he loved geometry. So I gave them an assignment where we had plants and things in the room, and they all made designs where they combined geometry and nature. I also taught them a little bit about how architects draw, because most of them didn't know what a floor plan was. And so I talked about, and he always started with a floor plan, so it made it, so I talked about, first it started with geometry, the square in this case, and then the floor plan, and then the volume. So, so that, and then for their exercise, I had them first just look at objects and try to find the geometry in them. And then, after that, their exercise was to make the geometry. And then this part we haven't done yet because it involves a bus. And but we were going to go out to the beach and draw the Frank Lloyd Wright House. And the younger kids, I was going to give them this outline. And this comes from a Santa Barbara project that's also in CAF. It's a drawing exercise that they have in there. So it kind of shows you steps about how to draw something. And then, of course, the pizza. So that's a little bit about what I did. I took exactly 4 minutes to say all that. I can't believe it. I must have been talking really fast.
Since you have a minute left, Polly, can I ask you a couple questions?
Sure.
So how did you connect with this arts group? Did you just do a cold call or did you have a connection there?
I actually had a connection there. The director of the program, I knew him, and I had I'd kind of been friends with him since he first started it. So so it was easy to call him and say, "Hey, Juan, I want to do this," and he was like, "All right." I mean, after school art programs, they're just delighted to have someone come in and do something. That's what it's for, so.
That's great. And then just to clarify for the listeners, you can access Polly's lesson and you can access other lessons. She did a remarkable, over the top, wonderful job with this. But if you don't have the time to develop a lesson, just pull one off our site and use it. Or if you feel like doing what Polly did, you're welcome to do that as well, but it's not required. And then the final question for you, Polly, is why do you volunteer for Architecture by the Book? Does this program appeal to you? Why do you see the value in it?
For me, it's not so much about cultivating new baby architects as much as cultivating the public. My experience as an architect is that the public that I serve is extremely poorly educated in architecture. And it seems to me that starting early would be a good idea. When I would be out sketching in Italy, some famous building, 6-year-olds would wander up to me and start critiquing my drawings, and it made me realize that in other places, kids do get an architectural education, and we're really lacking here.
Thank you. I think that is such a good point. Okay, our next speaker is Jeannie. Jeannie, do you want to talk about your KCWIS program? Oh, you're muted.
Sorry about that. I'm Jeannie, and I'm a founding member of our Kern County Women in STEM's, the Women in STEM group. And then we decided to create a speakers bureau, and it was really about lots of STEM careers. And we sent bios and photos and topics to all of the schools within Kern County. And then teachers could go on that site and request somebody to come speak to their students. So really early on in the program, I was asked to come speak to 4 fourth grade classes. So it was quite a few students in the cafeteria. And I was grabbed because of the Women in STEM Speakers Bureau, but I'm going to come and talk about architecture because that's what I do. And so I used the Architecture by the Book to go find a book. I've actually created 2 lessons. One of my lessons is in the website or in the program there, but it was for like 7th and 8th grade girls or kids. I'm so used to talking to girls. And so I picked the Zaha Hadid book because it felt the right age group for these 4th graders. And so I did a lot of I just pulled out pieces of the lesson that I felt were needed. So I didn't use the entire thing because I was embedding it into my, my presentation was a little bit about who I am and what my firm does. And then we went into kind of generic architecture. I hate that I'm saying that, but so that's where I introduced the lesson and the images she had, like you mentioned, the shell and all the pieces of nature that I think that really inspired kids to understand how a building, your imagination can inform what a building looks like. So I used those pieces. It was really cute. At the end, they asked me if I wanted to be just like Zaha Hadid. So that it was great. The kids really adapted and understood my presentation. I have a second program lesson that I've done. I just haven't submitted it yet because I need to kind of review it, but I've actually used student interns to help put those together. But it's a book that's probably good for maybe fifth graders. So I can't wait to get that one in.
That's great, Jeannie. I wanted to ask you, is there anything you've learned in working with, younger or with students that you would share with anyone who's volunteering for this program? Any pointers?
Yeah, so I've been going out and talking to students for years now. So it was just sort of perfect when CAF created this because I'm like, I'm already doing it. And now you're just making it easy for me by having a program already put together and having some other things to talk about other than me, and we've had third graders come into my office and we did little craft things. So this is great to be able to do this. The kids are really like, I decided I wanted to be an architect in fifth grade, but not because I had drafting or anybody coming into my school to talk about it. It was from a TV show. So kids are going to grab, what they see. And I feel like it's so important for our kids to see what's possible because unless the teacher has some kind of reason to talk about architecture, they're not going to even know that that's a career choice. And so having someone come into their class, they are interested. It's creative, it's designing, it's using bold colors and ideas. And so they really, when I went and talked to the fourth graders, I couldn't get to all the questions. Almost every kid had multiple questions. So they really listened to my presentation, but then they were very interested afterwards. So I think it's great. I would do it once a week if I could.
So that another question for you, gaining, it sounds like you were invited. Have you ever
Yeah.
actually had to go out and reach, or just because of the work you've done already in your community, you're just getting those calls?
Yeah, I don't usually go and request that. I was at an event this weekend and somebody that I knew, I found out he's teaching seventh graders on perspective drawing. And so that's kind of, I just said, hey, if you want me to come and talk to your students, I'd love to do that. And he jumped on it. I came in Monday morning and there was an email there. So I think once people kind of see that you're willing to come to them, it's sort of word of mouth. Of course, I always put it on my social media, but I don't go out looking for it. They just find me.
I was going to say, I follow you on social media and I love how you post regular pictures of your interactions in your community and your promotion of the profession, not only your firm, but just, the value of architects.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jeannie. So last question, why do you volunteer in this way?
Yeah, sort of what Polly said, I think it's so important. People don't really, every building you go into pretty much is designed by an architect. So I think you just don't know what you can't see, like they can't see it. And I just feel like if more people were out there sharing what we do, I always say if I can just get one, right, one person to show an interest and, even if they, go to school for it and they find out it's not for them, at least they became interested in it and looked at it as a career. I mean, as a firm owner, I'd hire 3 architects today if I could, and they're just not out there in my area. So we definitely need more. We need more awareness. I love when people appreciate what architects do. Most of the time when I tell people what I do, they say, oh, wow, I've never met an architect. And I know why. That's because there's not very many of us. So it's the awareness and really just to help support, like Laura said, our replacement down the road, our future architects.
Great. Well, thank you. All right. So speaking of Laura, Laura's going to talk about our last case study, which is the Scientific Adventures for Girls program.
Yeah, like Jeannie was saying, I think it's interesting how many people you say, oh, I'm an architect, and they say, oh, I always thought I wanted to be an architect. And then it goes to something else, right? Often they didn't pursue it. They thought they couldn't find their place in it. And I think it's really important that our profession isn't a one-size-fits-all profession. There are a lot of pathways in it, and inspiring kids to look at it early is really important. This Scientific Adventures for Girls program is phenomenal. It's an after-school program here in Northern California in the Richmond, Oakland school districts. And it serves a demographic that we were originally targeting when we developed Architecture by the Book. And that is people of color, women who have not been exposed, like Jeannie said, to architects that are in places that don't regularly talk among professionals. So it was a perfect match for our dream for the program. You'll see on the CAF website that many of the books that we chose were of architects of color or women as our starting portfolio, because we wanted to really go into schools and expose students to that. We were able to reach 800 girls at 21 school sites with this program. And we had a lot of the resources were provided for us, all the building supplies and recycled materials and glue sticks and all those things, not to mention the teachers there for that classroom management component that Kim was talking about. Our firm did 2 books, both Zaha Hadid books, but both at different levels. So we did a younger one, The World is Not a Rectangle, and an older one for building Zaha, and then used a similar program for one where we used the inspiration, like I mentioned, the shell to the stadium concept, and the other one that plays with light and shadow a little bit more for the older kids. And again, we picked that because female and women of color, and obviously very inspiring work that Zaha did, and some great kids books. So that was very exciting. Our firm, we have, I think we had 5 women volunteers that went out and did this through Scientific Adventures for Girls, but we've had many, many more that have gone out to their kids' schools or their neighbors' kids' schools or anywhere that someone's asked them, and have, I bought a stack of the books. I have them available to people to grab and go and do these programs on their professional development time. We pay them to do it so that they can use some of that time to improve their public speaking skills, to improve their leadership skills, all of those things that we budget for anyway. We believe there are different ways to get there from here. And part of it is how you react and interact with your community. So our firm developed a logo for this. We used our interns that summer to help develop the program initially. So any way that we could get our younger staff bringing to the program their perspective, because it's one thing for me as a woman of a certain age to talk about my experience. It's quite another for someone in their 20s, new into their career, to really connect with kids of different ages and tell them what inspired them to enter this profession. So we felt that that was an important part of the mix too, was to get our 20-somethings and 30-somethings inspired to talk to those 8 to 10-year-olds about what being an architect is all about. So we had a great experience with Scientific Adventures for Girls. I hope they keep bringing us back.
I do too. And that's such an important thing to note about the professional development skills, I think, within your firm, to think about it that way. That's a really approach. I wondered if you could talk a little bit about I want to mention two things. One is that for Scientific Adventures for Girls, our program, typically is about 90 minutes. But the after school program only had 60 minutes. And so we just modified the program. We were flexible so we could meet the 60-minute time frame. So that's just another way that this is just a scaffolding for you to do what you need to do. And I think Polly and Jeannie's and Laura's examples show that. But I wanted to ask you a little bit about how AIA Central Valley, as you mentioned at the beginning, how the chapter has used it from a component standpoint during their annual public outreach event.
Yeah, so we have every year in October, we have what we call experience architecture, and we've made a slight change where we've spread it out over 3 months in the fall. And what it is exactly what Polly was talking about. How do we get the public more connected and engaged in what architects do and the architecture of our community and why it matters? So we have everything from speakers to tours of different building types to we have food events and all sorts, a bike tour, all sorts of things that are launched from the AIA Central Valley and our volunteers within that community. And one of our most popular events has been our hands-on kids program, and a different firm every year will host it at their office. And it's basically this program, but brought to all kids from the community. And we have people that have come year after year. We give tours of the offices. We've set up our virtual reality system. You can imagine the kids get in line for that to be able to play with the virtual reality. But it's just those kind of things. And I can't tell you the feedback we get from parents about how long their kids talk about it, how they can't wait to come back to it every year. And it really has shown us that and why the impetus kind of for launching this program through our chapter is just how much people are craving sort of that creative professions to expose their kids to. So yeah, it's one of our favorite events and just really, really successful every year. Thanks for asking about that, Kim.
Yeah, and for those that are volunteering, think about your AI component as a means to do this too. Have your emerging professionals group maybe tackle this as a project for the year. Maybe have a specific subcommittee like your schools architecture committee, or really think about how the chapter can also support architectural education in the community, even if it's an annual effort. And we're going to talk about AI Architecture Week in a minute. Laura, just a final question, and you were really the brainchild behind this program, but what is it that why do you volunteer? Why do you see value in that? I think you may have covered it, so.
Yeah, I think it's, you want the public to understand what we do, but as importantly, if you were a kid like I was that jiggled a lot in their chair in school and was the smart kid who needed something to do with their hands all the time, right? You see in the kids that you go into the classroom and work with those same characteristics, right? And maybe they're considered disruptive in their class, or in my case, kind of the bossy big sister. But what they're really looking for is an outlet for their creativity. And I think that we kind of seeing that in them is like looking in the mirror, and it really helps us to interact with them as students and bring out the best in them.
Well, thank you. It is really fun. For those of you that haven't done it yet, you will leave on such a high.
So
I've done
fun.
one lesson with a large group of about 9 architects in a school recently, and it was it took me a week just to come down. It was so much fun. Okay, so I wanted to mention that AI Architecture Week is coming up April 13th through the 19th. It's literally just a week or two away here. I can't believe how quickly this year's flying by. But if you're motivated by what you've heard today, we invite you to lead a lesson during this week. If you're able to pull something together and reach out, maybe you already have existing connections like Polly and Jeannie did. Maybe just make some phone calls. But If you do, we'd love to see some photos, so please share those. AI has some serious outreach goals, as you can see on the screen, and it would be great to contribute to their success. They do this every year. So if you're watching this in a year that's not 2025, there's an architecture week happening in a subsequent year coming up ahead. So I also wanted to share that we have developed a sheet of volunteer tips. We've done these trainings before and we have a whole lot of tips. I do think it's easier for you just to read them on a tip sheet. And as you teach lessons, let us know any tips that you feel would have been helpful to you, and we can update that. There's also a photo release here, and this is really important. The program is wonderful and there's just amazing photo opportunities, but we can't use any of those photos unless we have a release from the children and the teachers and the others. So print up a stack of these and take them with you.
And the photographers you use in your presentation.
Yes, that's a good point, Polly. As we know, it's very difficult, but once we have that release, we're able to use it and share the images, which helps the program. And we're always seeking grant funding and other sources of funding, and those pictures really bring home what this program does.
Kim just mentioned that most schools have a photo release as part of their package, so you can clarify if you're in a school with them in advance if all of the students have releases.
That's a good point. Thank you, Laura.
Yeah.
And then questions, and we actually whipped through our content. Thank you, everybody. So we can take some questions, but for those that aren't here live, we are developing an FAQ sheet, and we welcome you to send any questions you have, and we're going to add them to that FAQ so that people coming up in the program can see the questions that have already been asked. So Katie, I see you have a hand up.
Hi, Kim, and thanks everybody for sharing your experiences. I am very interested in taking this on this year and participating, so I'm looking forward to it. I was wondering, as far as the first, is there like a template email or outreach for people that are making those cold calls or cold emails or, LinkedIn messages that you have? I mean, I could do something with, ChatGPT in like 30 seconds, but if you have something already made, then it would be awesome to have that. And then the second question was for the photo release, do you guys send that in advance when you have done that so that the parents can sign it in advance for that event?
I can take it or the presenters can, but we currently don't have an outreach template just because the requests are often so personal or specific. But I could easily put together, Katie, some boilerplate content just for you to cut and paste.
That's okay. That's okay. I thought if you have something, that's perfect, but definitely you don't need to generate it just for me. I appreciate that, Kim.
And then the photo release, yes. When I did the session that I did about 2 weeks before, you don't want to send it too soon. We sent it out. We had 130 kids in 4 classrooms. We sent it out. There were parents who did not sign the release. And so we identified them with a green sticker. And so as we took pictures, we avoided the green stickered students. But yes, send it in advance. And then when I walked in the classrooms, the teachers were amazing. They handed me the stack and pointed
Okay,
out.
nice.
And in our incidents, they moved the students who were green stickered to one table. So that helped as well. But not every
Okay,
class
thanks.
is going to be managed that well. Or if you're in a community setting, it may not either. So yeah. Did any of the presenters have any comments on those 2 items, outreach template or photo release?
I don't have a comment on that, but I did want to make a comment about the experience of developing a program and studying a program that's already made. Is I in both of the ones I did, I learned so much by trying to distill something that's a big subject or like an architect's whole life down to a 10-15 minute presentation. You really learn some amazing essence, and it's just worth doing for yourself as well as for kids.
That's such a nice point, Polly. Yeah, it's a give and a get.
Yeah.
Do any of our other attendees today have any questions for the benefit of others that may be viewing this later? All right, well, I just wanted to let you know that the California Architecture Foundation is here for you if you're interested in
Oh, we
developing a
lost you.
lesson. Oh, can you guys hear me now?
Mhm.
Okay. I just want to say the California Architectural Foundation is here for you. If you're interested in developing a lesson, we have templates. We have all the things you need, including a book list. If you're interested in reaching out and you just need an extra chit chat, we're happy to put together a Zoom session to instill confidence and walk through some scenarios, or any other questions you have. So my email is here, and I'll also send out that FAQ after with some basic questions. So I just wanted to thank everyone for your time today and for your interest in Architecture by the Book. And a huge thank you to Laura, Polly, and Jeannie for sharing today and for your support and engagement with this program so far. We're growing it slowly, but we're really excited about the progress we've made. And the key thing is to share your experiences with us so we can share all the ways it's applied and all the impact it's having. Well, have a
Thank you.
great,
You'll have a blast if you jump in.
absolutely. All right, thanks everybody. Take care.